Hello everybody, welcome to CGTN social media platforms. I'm Silkina Ahluwalia here in Jakarta, Indonesia. It's a big day for Indonesia today. We are electing our president, parliamentary and regional leaders, basically. We are at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. I'm joined by Phillips Vermonte, who's the Executive Director of CSIS. Thank you so much for joining us. It is such a big day for Indonesians.
That's
and
true.
We are here at the Quick Count Center where the polls closed about
1 p.m.
Yes, so 1 p.m. That's about a little over 2 hours ago. And so tell us a little bit about what happens here at the Quick Count Center and what are the percentage of the winnings right now when it comes to both of these candidates?
Well, basically, this is our room where we have about 80 people validating data that comes in from 2,000 polling stations that we sampled across Indonesia. So Quick Count is basically you are reporting the final results at the polling station level where people, the tally has been counted and has been signed by the local election officials, including all the witnesses. So it's formal. So there's this one document that then reported to the National Election Commission. So it's kind of, we are intercepting at the polling station level and then get the results based on the randomized sample out of 800,000, about 800,000 polling stations across Indonesia, we get 2,000. So basically that will give you only a margin of error about 1%. So it's very representative and it's very reliable. We've been doing this in the past few elections and then the results normally would follow what Quick Count done by pollsters.
And what are the numbers at right now? What are we
right now?
looking at?
Data has been, I think, it's about 60 something percent, and the incumbent, the candidate Joko Widodo, is still leading by 10 to 15% margin. So, but we cannot call it right now because normally after 90% or 95% of data comes in,
then
it's more stable. It's more stable, and then not much will change from then on. So we have to wait, I think, in the next 30 minutes.
And so let's make our audience understand about what really happened and is happening today on the 17th of April. A lot of people say it is the biggest single day elections. Can you talk to us about why it's being called the biggest? And also, some experts are calling it one of the most complicated and complex elections.
That's true. For one, we have 190 million something eligible voters. So in itself, it's already a big number. Number two, it is, of course, our population spread out across the archipelago. Most of them still lives in Java. About 60% live in Java Islands, but 40% lives, outside Java in Sumatra Island, Kalimantan, and so on and so forth. So we have 800,000 polling stations. Our election commissions mobilize about 5 million people to manage this election. So you can imagine the difficult challenge that all these commissioners and the electoral commissions
it's a tough task.
That's true. 5 million is hard to manage. But we've been doing this since 1999. I think then we have enough trust on our election commissions that has been doing this for the past five elections. Number four, it is big because for the first time in our election history, we are having simultaneous election. That is, all elections take place in one day. Presidential election, and then the parliamentary election at the national level, and at the provincial level, and at the district and city level, including election for senators that will represent each of the provinces. So voters, when they come to the polling station today, they will be looking at 5 ballots. And the ballot, of course, is complicated because for the parliamentary election, for example, they have to choose candidates out of 14 parties participating in this election. Each might nominate more than 5 or more than 10. So they have to scrutinize all these names and then decide who they are going to vote. So you can imagine how much time it will take for the Indonesian voters to scrutinize and then to get to know the candidates, and that's why the campaign period for this election is
so
really
important.
long. It's like 6 months already, and so it's a nerve-wracking period for Indonesia. But I hope that it is worth it for us, that we do continue to have elections regularly, and then whoever wins the election is going to be respected, and whoever lost the election needs to respect the results of the election as well.
Yeah, and also, when we talk about a leader that will lead Indonesia, we are such a diverse country. We're multi-ethnic, multiracial, multi-religious. So we would need to have a leader that really can find a middle ground to bring us together as one and as a nation. So when you look at the campaign strategies of Prabowo and President Widodo, what are some of the similarities or major differences that you see throughout this 6 months of the campaign period? Yeah.
In terms of mission statement that they submitted to our electoral commissions, actually you don't see much difference, at the formal documents that they presented to the election commission, and so that citizens or election can actually look at their programs. Not much different on that front, but during the whole campaign you could see the nuances that they bring in to the voters in general. And because this is a rematch of the 2014 election, the division has been there since 2014. 5 years on, people are still divided. Those who like the incumbent continues to like him, and those who like the challenger continues to like him. So then, the differentiation is rather, to me, in my opinion, is rather. I have concern that sometimes, ideas about religion and the state, the relationship between religion comes to the fore.
That was my next question, yeah.
Right, so sometimes we are diverted from the actual problem that we have. We are supposed to discuss more on the policies,
exactly,
and on the achievement, and then what are the challenges. Indonesia is we live in the competitive world right now, and so on. The agenda of today.
Yeah.
But during the campaign, some people have concern about the way campaign is run by the candidate. Using this, we see the proliferation of identity politics and so on. But I do hope after this election, it will, kind of die down, because then after this election, I think people will try to move on, because if President Jokowi is re-elected, he has a constitutional limit, term limit by the constitution, so he will not concern about the re-election for third time, and then the electorate will then start to see who will be the next leader of Indonesia, and that might change the whole discussions.
Yeah,
about,
because
religion.
I get asked that all the time about how religion is being largely in the spotlight in this election, and it's completely different from what I can see in 2014 and now, although both are similar candidates, really. But it's also hard to kind of think, Indonesia is a Muslim majority nation. I think, so when we see Prabowo's supporters, for example, do we see that most of them are from hardline Islamist groups? And also, I think by President Widodo picking a Muslim cleric as his running mate, does that mean that he's really feeding into the growing religious sentiment in the country?
Well,
was it unexpected when he picked Maruf Amin, for example?
No, number one, because Indonesia is a majority Muslim country.
Yeah.
So you might expect that somehow religion will, in one way or another, affect Indonesian politics.
Yep.
Now, I think it's a matter of degree. And at the constitutional level, I think we have settled this question about religion in relation with the state. That is, Indonesia is not based on one religion. So it's a plural countries and so on. Number two, I have this feeling though that And my observation, if we look at the electoral data of Indonesia since 1999, actually the support for the Islamic parties continue to decline.
Yeah.
And that means the Islamic parties fail to capture the energy, the
That
conservative
sentiment,
energy,
really,
that sentiment from the electorates
Yeah.
of Indonesia. But then the other side of the coin is that you have this, somehow rather conservative groups of people, and they then distrust the Islamic parties.
Yeah.
Where do their energy go? So they start to look outside the party leadership. So that's how then these informal religious leaders become important in the past 2 or 3 years. Then I would say if we can fix, our political parties, the way they operate, including the Islamic parties, the nationalist parties, I think we will be doing okay because as a democracy, of course, political parties is the one to go
For sure.
in terms of representation.
Yeah.
But now because people, especially the Muslim voters, they don't see the Islamic parties as party different from the nationalist party. They are equally corrupt,
Yeah.
and so on. So they distrust. So I think the agenda for Indonesia is that Indonesians remain more or less moderates.
Yeah.
But then it depends on how our political system represent the energy and capture the aspiration of the Islamic voters and turn it into policy through negotiation in the parliament. So politics are not spilling over outside the parliament building.
Exactly. We actually spoke to one of your experts who say that, you guys have done a lot of surveys and it still shows that we were talking about how religion is important, but again, voters still
Right.
look for somebody that has a tough stance on
Yeah.
issues,
Yeah.
that are authoritative,
Yeah.
that have good social work, that have humility.
Right.
For example. So, just your opinion, if President Widodo is reelected, does that put more pressure on him and for his administration to kind of, he has a lot of infrastructure projects that is unfinished as well. And so do you think that there's going to be a lot more riding on his administration this second time around if he is reelected?
I think it depends on two things. Number one, if he is reelected.
Yes, if he is reelected.
If he's elected, by how much margin with the challenger?
Right.
If it is wide margin, then he could feel that he has, a mandate, large mandate for the public that will boost his political confidence, and of course, it will boost his political power. But if the margin is rather small, then you might expect, the parties in the opposition might be able to continue to challenge him and so on. So he might need to have more negotiations and then compromise and so on. So then, policy might be shaped by that outcome of this negotiation with the opposition. Number two, also it depends on the result of the legislative election, whether or not his coalition, led by PDIP, win by the big margin or not. So if the margin is rather as well big, then and he's winning by a big margin, then he has a solid, ground himself as a president, and then he has his foot in the parliament that will support him. So then it will be easier for him to push forward whatever agenda he wants to pursue in the next 5 years.
Exactly. And if Prabowo wins, what do you think are some of the changes that the people are expecting him to put into place almost immediately? What are some of his major strategy really throughout his entire campaign? I know he talked a lot about poverty as well in the recent debate, and he was, taking example of China, who has, eradicated poverty in just 40 years. So
I don't know how to answer that question because as a candidate, he has never been in any governing position.
Right.
He's been a military person throughout his years, and being in the military and being in the civilian governing system could be very much different. And then no record as yet as in the policy making position.
Yeah.
But I can only look at the platform that he's offering through the election commission.
Yeah.
And I would say that he's more inward looking kind of guy.
Yes, that's
that
the
policy.
exact thing that I get from him, really.
Right, so
his
it's like
persona.
inward looking, then it would not be a surprise if he's favoring more on the kind of protectionist policies.
Is that similar to President Trump then?
I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
You make that assumption, but
It came out of my mouth.
right. I think it's just that he's a typical leader of a very strong nationalist narrative.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time. So we are, it's this the Quick Count Center. We're still working hard until we
Right.
get at least 1995 up to 100%.
Right.
But you don't think it's going to come anytime soon?
Maybe in the next 30 minutes.
Oh, okay, that's very soon. So we might have an idea of
Right.
who's leading. Mr. Phillips, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you.
And I'm here in Jakarta continuously updating you guys on the Indonesian elections. A big day for Indonesia. So stay tuned to CGTN. We're on Facebook and a lot of people are just want to know who's going to win.
All right.
But we can't tell you right now. You're going to have to watch
Wait.
CGTN to
Certain.
keep yourself updated. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you. Okay, I return there. Thank you very much. See you. Oh, okay.
So, have you seen Pak Prabowo has said that his exit polls show that he's got 55%?
Does he have this open space like this?